Hey, welcome. This is part one of How to Paint a Portrait in India Ink, Amy Lee of Evanescence. So I am very excited and this is going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope someone shows up. It's 9:30. There's no one here yet, but I'm positive that there are going to be people showing up pretty soon. So 9:30, everything looks good, and I'm actually recording this locally as well. I'm going to make a video of this, so that's going to be really exciting. Hey John, how's it going? How are you, my friend? Good to see you. So I'm so glad you showed up, my friend. So far it looks like little slow going as far as people coming here. It is Wednesday, right, John? It's always good to see you there, John. Always. So my friend Mr. Leahy, he does his live streams on Facebook. Hey Gary, good to see you all the way from UK. What a pleasure, my friend. Mr. Leahy does his beer, and then last night Gerald Mendez did his iced tea. So today is my green tea, and it's not bad. Hey, how's it going, Jason? We got two UK people here. So glad to see you, my friend. Wow, we have a real British connection going. I am so excited. That is so great. Jason and Gary, so very cool. So this is my cup, Timothy. I used to work for a company called Quincy. They were bought out by Amazon, and they were subsequently assimilated into the company, but I was number 8 employee. That's all I have left for 10 years of working with those guys, but that's okay. So I'm excited. So let's go over what we're doing today. This is going to be an interesting one. It's always good to check out part one. Part one is always, I feel, part one and the last one are always really fantastic for, learning wise, because like a plane taking off and landing, those are the two most important things, So same here is that the most important thing is how you begin. Hey Wendy, good to see you, and Willie, how's it going? So glad you're here. All right, so now we're getting some traction here. So this is fantastic. I love to see it. Steve Leahy, how are you, sir? I just wanted to show you, I did a tribute to you, and I introduced my green tea. So you're rubbing off on me there, Mr. Leahy. And it's a pleasure to see you, Gary, that's for sure. So basically what I did, this is going to be Amy Lee of Evanescence, and she is just amazing. I just really love her music, love her voice, love her, So what I did was I projected it, and then what I did was work on the background. As you can see, the background is sort of a dark gray as it goes, and dark over here. And what I did is I just maxed her out. And then on this side, I used the 50-50 white mixture with 1:1 with the 4012 reducer. And then I went ahead and did the background. Sometimes I like to establish the background because it sort of begins the whole tapestry of the relative value differences, and so that's very important to begin with some sort of framework. So that's basically what I did. Now what I'm going to do in the beginning stage, as always, those who have been with me a while know that I always start with my white mixture, which is the 4012 reducer and Drew Blair's 50-50 illustration white, and that's half and half. And what I usually do is I spray it through my Omni Sightline. I just love this little airbrush, and that's by manufactured by Badger, and it's Omni. So really fantastic brush, great control. So as you can see, everything is pretty much mapped out, but nothing too crazy, because looking at this piece, everyone, you can see that it is very much so a play of hard and soft edges. Now, I took the photograph and I went ahead and adjusted the edges myself using filter masks and transparency masks and stuff like that in my Photoshop type software, which is called Krita. So I take the photograph, but I change it to make it a much more visually interesting piece. So that's crucial. Why do I go ahead and start with the white mixture? Why don't I just go ahead and go in gun blazing with my India inks? Well, I'll tell you, the main thing is the white mixture is basically to bring things forward, and you have to do that in the beginning, but also if I put down India ink and then go over with the white mixture, there's going to be something called a blue shift. What that means is that the ink and the paint is going to react to each other, and it's going to look really unprofessional. And that's not something that we want to look. We could sound unprofessional, but we don't want to look unprofessional, right? So that's basically the reason why I go in with the 50/50 illustration white. Now, while I'm doing that, I'm going to be looking for, well, this is not good. I'm looking for my trusty shield, and here it is. I use this all the time. This is basically the pin-up shield, and but someone made a very teeny tiny version of this for me. One quick thing about shields. Please, 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 always cover these up. You're never going to use these little negative shapes here. But what happens, everyone who has used these are spraying along here, maybe they're getting a good distance, everything's going good, and then they remove it, and then they have that hole, this thing right there in the middle of the portrait or something like that, and that stinks on ice. So we don't want that to happen. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to oh wow, so sorry Wendy, I hope it gets resolved. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this over. There we go. Okay, so we're going to take my sight line, we're going to take my 50/50, always move our painting a little bit away from that, because that could be very bad. And doesn't take much to fill up this little airbrush, the sight line. But you know what? It keeps you honest, and that's good. So I'm going to move Amy over here. And before I go in here, I want to make sure that things are working well. Oh, that's beautiful. See, that's good. You know, once you have that really nice flow, you know, everything seems much, much better. No lights in the bathroom. Oh my goodness. Oh, be careful. Electrical problems are always scary. Okay, so I have my picture of Amy here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start pulling them up, okay? Pulling up these lights. Now the thing is, when you put the light mixture, what you're going to realize is that at first it's going to wet the painting. It's going to wet the paper. So when it wets the paper, it's going to darken. However, when it dries, the white's going to show up. It's pretty weird, but that's pretty much all paint. At first, is always going to, when you work on paper, is always going to wet the paper, and then the light of the. So see how light I'm going? Super, super light. There we go. So Just think of a sculpture like this is wet clay, right? And that's what you want to think. This is wet, wet clay, and you're just creating, we're just bringing that nose up further. You know, we're just being sculptural. Okay. All right, so let's continue. There we go. See, I'm just going in there. Just sculpting, guys. Yes, Wendy, I definitely am going to do the lips in red, and her eyes have just the slightest little bit of green tint. So we're going to do something different this time around. There we go. So you see how we're just sculpting a little bit? Thanks, Wendy. I appreciate that so very much. Vampire? No, no vampire eyes. But that's funny. You're funny, Wendy. So my goal with this painting, or my hope with this painting, is that Amy Lynn sees this. She's so in love with it that she just has to have it. That's my goal. There we go. So you see how just very slowly I'm just building stuff up. Let's move her over just a tad. A little bit of light there, a little triangle of light right there. No, Wendy, this is Amy Lynn of Evanescence. There we go. So you see how we're just slowly. Hey, Todd, good to see you. How are you, my friend? We have a nice, healthy group here today. A nice crowd of good folks. Part 1 is always interesting, right? That's it's usually the most popular number of the parts 1 to 10, 1 to 7, right? I think part 1 is usually what people love the most. Well, I think it really is good to learn how to start, you know? Yeah, Wendy, her music is fantastic. I agree. How can you go wrong with this woman's music? I don't know. See that? I'm still using my freehand shield. Perpendicular and not parallel. Sometimes I forget, we all forget, but that's why you have to be your own coach. Gotta tell yourself. 1 second rule. Perpendicular, not parallel. You gotta say those Timisms, you know? Those are important. Keeps us on our toes. Look long and paint short. Visualize your brush and your reference together, you know? Oh, the paper is, oh, thank you, Wendy. The paper is Colorline by Canson. The color is Pebble Gray, 184-pound paper. There's two sides. There is a little bit of a textured side, and also there is a side which is smoother. And of course I use the smoothest side. One of the main goals of this particular painting for me is definitely going to be, cleanliness. That is my goal in this painting, is cleanliness. And Todd says, what does the white pastel pencil you have? Now, what the brand is, the Pit Pastel by Faber-Castell. And basically, the white pastel is the very end of the painting when we do those highlights. And I would, oh, definitely love to see, Todd, definitely. Now, not all pastels are the same. Some are much better than others, some are much worse than others, like anything else. Pastel is a serious medium, so there's a whole spectrum of quality of supplies. So you see, just as we're working now, things are evolving, but in the sense that they're evolving for what comes down. You know, pits are very good, definitely, Wendy. Jason says, is there an advantage or even disadvantaging underpainting in Payne's Gray for color bits? Absolutely. So, great question, John. The whole idea of an underpainting really has its foundations in Renaissance art, you know. It's called a grisaille, and basically it's a monochromatic underpainting. And what that does, it takes care of your values and gives it a structure. So when you go over with color, you're not just dealing with color and drawing and value and edges at the same time. So you figure a painting has all these elements. It has contour, it has shape, it has value, it has edges, how those shapes actually relate to one another. It has the shapes within, or the values within each shape, and also then color. So to try and handle everything, color, all those, and color at the same time, I believe is counterproductive. And so, but that's the whole 19th century French academic idea, was solid line drawing, values, and then paint over it. Same thing with the Venetians. You know, the Venetian painters from the 1500s, such as Veronese, Titian, I think Tintoretto is considered, yes, Tintoretto. Those guys are your Venetian paintings. And what they would do is they would do a monochromatic underpainting like we're doing here in but they would actually do it in what is called now Venetian red, which is like a blood color. So what happened is when they did light glazes over that red, it really gave the appearance of flesh underneath. So the whole idea of underpainting is a tradition that goes back 600-700 years, even more. Now there is a school of thought of alla prima, which I think in Italian is like one time, and that is how people just go right in with the brush, very little preliminary drawing. Now, I'm not going to say there's a right or wrong way, But I am going to say that that's not my way or how I feel comfortable doing it. When I was in art school, I studied with some great teachers in my early days, and they had us drawing with the paintbrush. So they would take something like, I'm tripping over this brush all day, I can't find it now. So they would take a brush very much like this size. They would dip it in paint and turpentine, and they would start drawing the large shapes in paint, and then go ahead slowly refine. Well, I did that for the first like 3 years, and I can tell you I hated it, but I was told that this is the right way to do it. I hated it. I'll tell you how much I hated it. I despised it, Jason, and it was horrible, and I just couldn't take it, you know. But then I went away to college, university, and I learned about the 19th century French academic painters, Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres, Jacques-Louis David, you know, guys like Bouguereau and Jean-Léon Gérôme, and they did exactly this, and I was like, no way, how is that possible? You mean I was right for questioning this the whole time? So that's why. But you know what, it's all personal preference. I just hated, you know, doing something as delicate as a face, right? And trying to, you know, be sensitive with a big old brush, you know? I just really didn't like it. Now remember, the further away, the less paint. But with the less paint, of course, you're going to have less detail. But the further away, you're going to have more gradations. It's going to be softer. There we go. Yes, Jason, there's just some of the really greatest people here. They're just really fantastic. And yeah, they're nice all the time. So you see, look how much I've done, you know. Now, John asked a good question. Is the Drew Blair 50/50 white the same as Createx illustration white? Exactly. Yeah, it's just, those are his illustration colors. So yeah, same. Good question. Let's continue down here with this arm. This is all about structure, guys. That's what it's all about. So you can see we're creating structure. Now I was going to put a nice edge here, but what happens is that the edge is really not the white, but it's a shadow edge or mid-tone. So to go ahead with the freehand shield with the white, that's where looking is so important. You can have, you know, you can definitely have your game plan, but it should not supersede, you know, your powers of observation. So Wendy says you could use a pastel stick. The pencils just give more control. Well, yeah, the pencils don't give as much control as using the sandpaper and a stump, because here you can't control as much as how much that's coming out. Hey, what's up, Tone? Good to see you. Thank you so much, my friend. It's interesting you say that, Tone. One song, I think, with like, what was it called, 9 Doors Down or something like that, forgive me, 6 Doors Down. And one of the songs, a famous song, was Bring Me to Life. So I hope we can do that, Tone. So I'm really liking the way we are working with this white, and we're not taking anything for granted. Now, Gary says, do you believe in spending a lot of time learning all the airbrush strokes, like practicing while in doing a project? Yeah, definitely, but definitely do it like before you're painting and after you're painting. During the painting process, it should just all be about observation and painting. But definitely, play with your airbrush, play with the paint, have a good time. That's what it's all about. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. So I'm actually done with the white mixture for now. Anything else, any buildup of the white, I can always come back later with the white pastel and build that up. But as you can see how the lights are sort of coming up further, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take Amy, I'm going to put her over here. Excuse me, young lady. Put her there. And we're going to clean this airbrush. Because the white, illustration white does a number on these airbrushes if you leave them. Everything has a give and take, you have this amazing paint, but you know what? It kicks your airbrush's butt. So what I like to do is just take some Q-tips and we'll just start cleaning this out a little bit. I definitely would like to. Now this is an interesting thing. When I am cleaning my airbrush, I don't like taking a dirty airbrush. I'm gonna just sort of twirl the needle. I don't want to put a dirty airbrush when I remove the needle into the body of the airbrush. So I'm going to twirl the airbrush as I'm pulling the needle out. And you see there's hardly any white there. That's important. See, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. I read that. I read an article about it. And I read the book several times. But every battle is won and lost before it's ever fought. So you preparing for this stuff before it happens. Prepare for the clog before it happens. Prepare for the tip dry before it happens. Prepare for the airbrush not to work because it's dirty before it gets dirty, and you're going to be okay. And so every battle is won or lost before it's ever fought. So, okay, so now my airbrush is nice and clean. I'm going to shoot some water through it. And maybe I'll give it a good once over later. But I'm happy and confident that it's in good shape. So let me move her aside. And let's have a sip of my green tea with fresh lemon, which is really fantastic. Not make me feel better. Well, there are a lot of things that make me feel better than green tea, but a good cup of green tea makes me feel better. Although there are some things that make me feel even better than that, which I won't say. This is rated PG. PG-13, or maybe rated R. I'm not sure, but not NC-17. All right, so here we are, looking good so far, guys. What do you think? So, Gary, what a pleasure, and also Jason. Excuse me, Gary and Jason from the UK, staying up late. What an honor. Now let me find my Extreme Patriot Arrow by Badger. It's over yonder. Where are you? Okay, here she is. All right. Okay. So we're going to load the light mixture. Now the light mixture is what you're using to basically sketch. This is probably going to be about 40% of your time of your painting. Maybe even 50% of your painting is going to be in the light mixture. So very important. Very important to do the light mixture correctly. And let me get my gloves on. I got to get some new gloves. So let's see. Okay, we got our gloves. Always, before I ever go online, I always make sure my nails look good, because nothing could be distracting. And nice painting, but I couldn't stop looking at his hands. So, you know, that would not be good. So always I try and be presentable, you know? I try, guys. I can't say I always succeed. Okay, so I don't want to just go in there, and so let me just very quickly see how my airbrush is. This is an incredible airbrush. It's modified, the Extreme Patriot Arrow by Badger. It's $100. There's a link in the description field. If you use the code timothypsa and you go to usaairbrushupply.com, you get 10% off on this particular airbrush, which is a great value. Comes out to about $100. Can't beat it. Okay, so Amy Lee, let's make this happen. All right, first things first. You just hold down this here. So now it's just sketch away. And what I'm going to do as well is I am going to put my glasses on. Okay, so let's make this happen. So, you know, when you do, Gary, your dagger strokes and your dots and everything like that, it's going to be paying dividends, because when you're working like right here, you're going to find that you're going to be doing little dagger strokes and dots and faded lines, and it's just really going to serve you well. So that's you know, what you really your practice and your time is not going to be wasted. It's going to be very well time well used. There we go. And you see, I'm not trying to get a likeness. I'm not even thinking about a likeness. I'm just worried about large shapes right now. That is all I'm worried about. Nothing more. Now there will be some pencil lines here and there, but that's all good because they're all going to go away later. That's the progression of the paint as things get darker. Don't worry about pencil lines now. worry about getting too dark. Just sketch. That's all I want you to be doing, is sketching, sketching, sketching. Be careful not to oversaturate your surface. And notice I'm not worrying about any kind of detail. If I want to fade, I just continually increase my distance as I'm painting, and it just sort of gets lighter and lighter with such the most beautiful, softest gradations as I just, increase the distance from the airbrush to the paper. You want to paint in 3 dimensions. So Todd says, Tim, if you were not doing this live, how long would it take you to do this picture? Between 10 and 14 hours, I would say. Especially someone as pretty as Amy. I'm going to take my time on her. There we go. But I really don't, it's all varied, I don't want to get hung up on time. So I always every painting is its own entity. And that's important to have that distinction, Okay, so we did that one eye, so let's continue moving on. I don't want to go too crazy in one area. I want to paint the ensemble, right? I don't want to, do a series of parts. So rather than doing an eye, nose, and a mouth, I'm just going to be working on a cohesive portrait. Okay. Be careful of, getting too wet. You have to let the ink catch up to the surface, or paint, regardless of what you're working with. Now right here, it's pretty dark, but then it softens up dramatically over here. So I'm going to keep my distance. I'm going to make sure that I have nice soft gradations. Same thing with here. Very soft gradations going on. Very soft. Hey, my guest, how's it going, my friend? Sometimes, my friend. How's it going, sir? Sometimes I do talk a lot. That is true. Guilty as charged. You know why? Because I live alone, so I don't really get a chance to talk to too many people. So maybe I'm compensating, I'm not sure. Okay, so we can work on some pencil lines here and there. But we don't got to go crazy. Right here, let's work on the lighter grays first, and then we'll come in with the darker. Come down that line there. Here and there, you're going to calm down some lines. We are so very light here. Oh, great. So Todd's getting the paper. That's exciting. I love this paper. This is the best paper ever. So we're just still working, looking around here. Let's work on her Cupid's bow. That's a great name for a body part, isn't it? Cupid's bow. Hey Mike, not bad my friend, not bad. Trying to stay out of trouble. That's not always working. How are you feeling? A little bit better, my friend? I know you were having some trouble with your back, and that's horrible. You don't want to commit. You can always increase your distance and it becomes very light and wispy. Oh wow, MRI, boy, that's going to be, I pray it's nothing, my friend. Or I pray it's something easily fixed, I should say. Hope you feel better. A little bit of a hard edge right there at that one spot. Nice and soft and wispy here. Super soft, super wispy. Now right here is very interesting. You know, I went ahead and actually manipulated the photograph to get these real soft edges here. I mean, we're talking super fine changes from this side of the face to the darkest dark of the hair. Now you might see some lines and you might, be, tempted to get rid of those lines. However, you want to suppress those urges. So this, of course, what I'm doing here with the hair is basically a bunch of dagger strokes going in both directions. Always refer to your reference. Make sure that you are happy with your progress. Over here we can go ahead and do some really nice we definitely can do some nice hard edges using our freehand shield. And so that's what there's two things at this painting that I want to do with this painting. The first is cleanliness. I want it to be super clean, meaning, hardly any overspray, that sort of thing. What you want to do is you want to take a painting, the last painting you worked on, and there are times where we're super happy with it, but we all know there's always something that we're just not 100% happy with, right? And that's what your next painting has to be about. What is it of your last painting that you would like to fix, What could you improve on from your last painting? And I think that's important. I think that's crucial to basically have that sort of feeling that, your progress needs to be a pragmatic, linear progression. So that's why every painting is just a preliminary for your next painting and improving it. And by doing that over and over again, you're going to be improving your work as a whole. Your whole body of work is going to improve. Oh, Jason, thank you so much, man. Thank you for staying awake. Oh, your 4-year-old, God bless. And very nice to meet you. If you have any questions, go ahead and really feel free to email me, leave a comment, Jason, okay? And I will be more than happy to answer. So my email, I'll type it in, paintedglyphs@gmail.com. You have any questions, my friend, I will be more than happy to go ahead and answer. Okay, sir? So I always periodically check and make sure that my airbrush is working correctly. One of the things you want to check is just putting the air down and seeing if any color comes out. That usually is an indication that you have a clog. Let's see. Okay, so it seems to be working pretty good. I need to change my nozzle, so I'm waiting to get a new nozzle, because those nozzles go on you. But the good thing with Badger is they're very inexpensive, so that's a good thing. Just sketching. We're moving around a lot. That's very important. Not worrying so much about any of the too much of the pencil lines. Don't pay too much of a mind to it, okay? That is something that, like I said, they'll be taken care of in the later stages of the painting. When things get darker. Remember, distance is going to give you that gradation. See that? The distance is going to take care of it. You don't have to do like crazy dagger strokes all the time and fading lines. Just adjust the distance will be more than sufficient to control the airbrush and get it to do exactly what you want. Now the airbrush is really difficult, don't get me wrong, but it's easily mastered. Not easily mastered, but it's mastered over time. And everyone will master it over time. So don't think of it as like this like ethereal talent. It isn't. It's based. The airbrush is muscle memory and learning its properties and manipulating texture and manipulating PSI and distance and viscosity of your paint or ink. Those are the things that are going to make the difference. But those are all the things you have to learn together and separately at the same time. And that's why, everyone, I really recommend just going ahead and playing with the paint. Don't necessarily think about creating big projects all the time. Big projects are great. I'm all for them. But I'm basically all for just playing with the paint and just seeing what it does. Hours and hours of just playing with it. Use that ink up. Use that paint up. That's what it's there for. That's your badge of honor, is to use your art supplies up. Don't get into the trap of have beautiful art supplies that just sit there on your shelf. It does you no good there. So you have to use it. And you have to see yourself, like see your studio as a lab, and you're kind of like one of those crazy scientists, you know? So get on your lab coats and just go ahead and play around. Try it on different paper. Do airbrush in little sketchbooks, okay? Something like that. See, that's kind of a radical idea. Small little sketchbooks. I want you to go ahead. See, I'm not going to worry about those pencil lines, even though everything is telling me, erase those pencil lines, Tim, but I'm not going to. Suppress the urges that you have if it doesn't coincide with your plan of going from light to dark. You might need that line. You get rid of it, and then what? Then you got to find it again? No, you're not going to do hard work twice. Do hard work once. Beautiful hard edge here. Look at that. Breaking the rules. I am going to turn my painting over. And I'm just going to find that edge. I'm going to wipe my freehand shield in between. Not going to oversaturate the surface. That would be bad. Put in the hours. Beethoven said that he wants music or his art to reveal her secrets. And that is only going to happen if you spend lots and lots of time. That's when, the muses, so to speak, will reveal the secrets. Whether you're painting in oils, or you're a ballet dancer, or you're a classical composer, you're only going to get them when you put in the hours. That's when it's going to happen. And that, I think, is inspiration. When you're at the easel and you're playing around, that's when it really happens. That's when things really, you get those breakthroughs. Yes, the size, Gary, is 8.5 by 11. You guys in the UK call it A4 paper. Yes, thank you, Wendy. And I like it for many reasons. You can easily print out the reference the same size on your printer. I work small. I've always done. I don't like working big. So even though people say working small is more difficult, I'm more accustomed to working small. So I enjoy it. I don't see it as a challenge because that's what I've been doing forever. I've been working on a small scale forever. Let's go ahead and put this dark here. There we go. Oh, so Wendy said she can't use it right now. Her mom spared her the pesticide that she's allergic to. Wow, that's horrible. Digital is great. I love digital. Digital is what separates a lot of artists to being a lot more creative. So the ability to use digital is really important, and it has marked a big growth in my work. I don't want to kill my board any more than I have to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some spare paper, put it right above, just like that. And okay, so, oh, let me show you guys what I've been working on during the week. So here's what I have been working on. It's a little bit different. It kind of feels a little more, I don't know, it's just different, less classical than what I'm usually working with. So this is a blonde. I rarely paint blondes. But yeah, this is something that I've been doing with the ink mixtures. So this is probably about 4 hours away from completion. So yeah, so that's basically always, thank you Wendy, always working. That's really important. Now, Gary says he thinks he feels he has more control close in. He gets lost in bigger images. I can understand that too, definitely, Gary. You know, it's all a comfort zone, I think, right? Look at Vermeer. He did those small, beautiful paintings that we all know and love. So this is all a dark patch here. So what it is sort of a race, a personal race to get everything covered in ink. And then we could just better judge, you know, what the value relationships are. Oh, thanks, Gary. I appreciate that. Oh, blondes are wonderful, Willie. I agree. I love blondes, too. Okay, so here's this beautiful strap here. Oddly enough, it's not a real super hard edge. I may harden it up later in the later stages of the painting. But you see how the light mixture basically works as far as the sketching of the actual painting, you know? Digital keeps just from spending money on art supplies. That's great. Wendy, you have a lot of fun. I don't believe that one bit. One bit whatsoever. Like I said, let's work on covering up. There we go. I've seen you as a blonde, Wendy, that's for sure. Remember the 1 second rule. You don't want to be talking and working. It's like, oh yeah, that was supposed to be skin and you just made it hair. So always pay attention. Do not spray unless you have looked. So it's very important. You have no right to go over the 1 second rule. You know, you look for a second and then you paint for a second. You have no right to go and veer off of that. I don't care who you are. If you go past the 1 second rule, your work's going to suffer. Unless you're doing a flip technique or something like that. But still, you know, you want to make sure that observation is king, you know? Wow, so red hair and blonde hair gets noticed more. That's good insight. Very good insight, Wendy. But I'm partial. I like dark hair. Everyone who knows me knows that. So I'll notice a dark-haired woman before I would notice, uh, you know, any other. Kind of like the femme fatale, you know? Um, if you guys know of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhoods, Gary, they're from your country. The Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood were English gents. They painted in the mid to late 1800s. I would say more like the late 1800s. Just amazing painters. And their stunner was, you know, a long, dark, brooding, dark-haired woman. So it's interesting how different cultures, you know, have their, you know, femme fatale, so to speak. So basically it's just really taking your time, not trying to build Rome in a day. And also try and control that overspray. Oh, Willie says hair is not the first thing that he looks at. I think a lot of people have that sentiment. That's true, Willie. Okay, so now we are getting into some of the real subtle areas of this portrait. And what's subtle here is her brow. Super subtle. Super light. Remember, I can increase my distance to get a beautiful soft gradation here. Beautiful soft gradation. Wendy, you are funny. There we go. So there's so many little nuances happening here, and so we have to really concentrate, but let's not get overly obsessed with the little gestures of her face here. Although it's very important, not only for her likeness, but also for her expression, we know that it's a marathon and not a sprint. So we'll ease into this. Everything's going to look really dark right now, but it is super light still. Artists always take in the full image of the reference. Very true. That's so. And okay, so right here, it's very interesting. This sort of comes up here on her forehead. You don't want to get too wet. You can always go darker later, okay? So don't get hung up with having it look the right value or get it to that value right away. Let the paint catch up to the surface. So, so important. Okay, so we have other places where we can see where some of these subtle changes in value or very light tones. Eyes are Wendy's favorite, very interesting. So, yeah, as far as painting goes, eyes are, I believe, are the most important. So I hope I can get, I hope Ken can get me some nozzles here because I am having trouble with this airbrush and I need a nozzle. So let's see if Ken could get me a nozzle. You see, when your nozzle is not 100%, you can see that I'm not getting the complete control that I want. But since I have all this experience, I'm able to compensate. But that's not the way you want to work. My guest says I'm not bad at eyes, but he can expect much with only a little over a year of tinkering with portraits. That's very good, though. That's fantastic, little over a year. My first year was interesting. A lot of real beautiful subtleties here. So that's what we're going to look for. Yes, Todd, definitely. A little bit of red. Yeah, I'm thinking, well, you know what it is? I feel like that's a great idea. I'm going to try that. But it's just the point where there's just so much hours into this nozzle that inside it's just, I even tried cleaning it out and everything, and it just seems like there's just a build-up tone, you know? So it's just compensation right now to try and fix it, try and work around it, you know? I gotta take care of this a little bit here. Just calm this down just a little bit, this line. There we go, my friends. So you'll see here and there you might have an opportunity where you might have went crazy in the projection stage, you know? Yeah, so, you know, that's where I am now. It's like, I just need a new nozzle, so I wrote Ken, so let's see if he could help me out. go. So you see, she's coming together, and she's coming together slowly, but still, slow is the way to go. Everything looks super light to us right now. We don't want to overspray. Cleanliness is our motto right now with this painting. Like I said, I wasn't too happy with overspray I had to compensate for in the last painting. So this painting is pretty much going to be about that. Going to be about cleanliness. Oh, wow. Thanks, Gary. Oh, wow. Thank you. You are the best, Willie. You guys are just so great. You're always there to help and support and just encourage me, and I just really appreciate that. Ah, the lip master. The Fons, he was the lip master. Super light, guys. That's what we're about today. That's super light. That's what we're doing. Just light mixture, sketching. As you can see, this is only like the first hour. Look how far we have come. Now, granted, I did go ahead and put in the background, right? I put in, let me make this a little bit darker. I did go ahead and put in the background, you know, using a mask, and just, I don't want to, you know, I want to see how everything is going to gauge. So at least I have the right values in some places, so I can have an idea of what the values would look like down the line. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's see. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be on my YouTube channel, so you guys could go ahead and see. If you guys haven't, just go ahead and hit that like button. Bang, hit that like button for me. And that's cool. It always makes me feel good when I get lots of likes. Let me know I'm doing a good job. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, because I'm going to be doing these live streams. You'll be alerted if you forget every Wednesday. But also, I sometimes do impromptu videos, and I'd love to have you guys join me, and you'll get alerted. So just hit that subscribe button, and you'll be alerted. So, you know, and I love the growing of the community. I really feel we have a nice community going, and so that's always very cool to see more subscribers. Almost 3,000. Yes, Willie, thank you for that. Yes, we've come a long way. When Willie and Wendy first started with me, wow, what were we? We were like under 1,000, I think. Yes, we were. We were under 1,000. So that was pretty wild. Oh, look at that. We were able to calm down that pencil line. Like I said, sometimes you just know you have to, but for the most part, try and suppress the need to erase any pencil lines in the early stages. Want to feel, so when you paint, you want to feel like a sculptor. You know, you want to feel her eyes turning. You want to imagine what it would be like to feel this part of her. You know, it's turning. And over here. There we go. Okay, and see you in a few moments, Wendy. So I'm not sure what we're at right now as far as, let's see. We are at, let me see, I'm going to go to my YouTube channel. We are currently at, Willie, 2995. We are 5 subscribers away from 3,000. What a really cool milestone, huh? I started the YouTube channel way back in March of 2008. My wife at the time, we were both airbrush artists, and you know, the both of us started our channels, and we were not airbrush artists, we were pastel painters. And so we were beginning this before there was even any kind of monetization. Nobody was making money on eBay. It was all, on Facebook. Oh, excuse me, my dyslexia. On YouTube, nobody was making money. And it was basically a labor of love, which it still is. So we were doing these YouTube videos. They didn't have high definition at the time. And we were having fun. We were getting some traction. And then life got really hard. Separation, divorce, and I stopped. Oh man, probably a good 7 years. I've only done it like drips and drabs here and there. And finally I, moved on after divorce, and I decided to change my medium. A lot of times when we have a big life change as artists, it affects us. And you can see a big life switch or a big change in an artist's life. You're going to see a change in their work. So for me, I was actually a signature member of the Pastel Society of America. I was very well known in the pastel world, and I up and changed mediums. I just up and changed mediums. And that was radical, but I just needed to redefine myself. And then when I came back in 2017, I came back full force as a airbrush painter. And the airbrush has given me so much. The airbrush community, the people who I've met, you guys who I've met, has really been good to me. And I'm so glad I made the switch from being a pastel painter to an airbrush painter. I still paint in pastel, but primarily, with my social media, it's all pretty much airbrush. And it's just fantastic. So I'm really happy I made the switch. So I started my first airbrushing in like late 2010, early 2011, and then all of a sudden it just sort of really started, giving fruit. And I had a lot of really good people in the beginning, Cass Fuller, Drew Blair, people who have helped me just via email, and who have really encouraged me to do this thing. See, everything looks dark, but everything is super light. This is like your lightest light. These aren't even midtones yet, you know? Gary says, how long did it take you to get a handle on the airbrush? Well, interesting. I would say, now it's not fair. I was a practicing painter artist for like 25 years before I picked up the airbrush. I mastered several mediums before coming into it. So I did have an unfair advantage for a lot of people coming in new. But to say like when I really like got to the point where I was able to teach the airbrush, I would say in 2 years. Now I wasn't your average student. I would do at least 3 hours a day. And I would, when I was at work, I had a full-time job at Amazon. I would take my airbrush with me and I would just, no compressor of course, and I would just, pretend doing dagger strokes and everything like that, just, and every morning I would do dagger strokes, dots, fading lines over and over again. I took a couple of classes with Jonathan Pantaleone, but I worked over and over again. And, Willie says, I'm so glad that you do this. Thank you, my friend. I'm so glad I got to meet great people like yourself, One of the things that, I'll tell you one thing that was a real turning point in my growth that still today is so great. There's an artist called Cass Fuller. He's amazing. Check out his work. I owe him so much. So Kent Lind, I owe him a lot. So Cass Fuller, Kent Lind, Jonathan Pantaleone, Jonathan Pantaleone, the late Steve Driscoll, Drew Blair, David Morton, these guys really helped me out. But Cass Fuller said this one thing to me. Cass goes, Tim, and he called me on the phone. He says, I want you to play with the paint. I want you to try every brand. I want you to try every viscosity. I want you to try different distances. I want you to try it with mediums, without mediums. That's what's going to get you to master this airbrush. And you know what? That's advice that I still hold on to today. And I thank Cass Fuller for that so much. You never know. Someone could say something to you, and it could just be that moment, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's just like an aha moment or something like that, or an epiphany. And all of a sudden, it's like things started opening up to me, and I started playing with the paint, not think of it as this mystery or something, It's paint. It was invented by a dude, right? And you can go ahead and learn about that paint better than the person who invented it. Same thing with the airbrush. This airbrush was invented by some guy. Well, you can know about it even more than him or her. So go ahead and use all your brain and all the wonderful things that God has given you, your mind, your ingenuity, your stick-to-itiveness, tenacity, and go ahead and you learn this thing, not as good as everyone else, but only the way that you can. You know what I mean, guys? So that's what I want to see. I want to see that, the way that, Drew, that Cass told me really made me realize that, it's up to me with how much I learn. It's up to me with how far I go, how much knowledge I bring into the table with this. I know it sounds like a rah-rah approach. It really isn't, because that was so important to me. mean, that really changed everything for me. So, you know, I want you guys to have that moment, whatever it is. And keep searching for that moment. Keep asking questions. Ask me questions. You can't ask me too many questions. So Willie says, for the longest time, I've always had an airbrush with me, even though I thought I was nuts. Oh man, so explain that, Willie. You always had it with you. So you carried it with you, or you had an airbrush before you even started airbrush painting? See, I like these kind of live streams where we just sort of, you know, we're working on a painting and we're talking about technique, but we're also talking about our experience, you know, with the airbrush. Let me see if I can get a little more of that tea inside me here. Oh my God, that green tea really came out good this time, guys. Holy cow. That was nice. So Willie says he carried it with him all the time. That's what I did too. I had it in my bag. If I was stopped by a cop, they would think it was a pipe, you know? That's really funny. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But that's the difference. That's the edge that you have over others, is you carry it with you. So Gary says he's studying, oh, you're studying with David Powers DVD. Fantastic. For practice time, and he talks a lot about muscle memory. That is true. And you know, these tendons and everything are gonna hurt like heck until you get used to it. So Tone said he carried on vacation everywhere he went. Yes, exactly. So it's like you know, the old West, right? You know, the 6-shooters, you know, they all, you know, they carry their sidearm all the time. I think that's important. But that really shows, you know, I mean, the commitment to learn this thing. Heck, when we first started driving, how the heck am I going to do that? I thought that was crazy. I didn't know I was ever going to learn that thing. But you know what? We did. We did learn it. So let's continue with Amy here. There we go. Amy. Amy is fantastic. I wish I could play some Evanescence in the background, but if I did, I would be having a copyright strike, so that's a bummer because it would be great to listen to her music in the background. And you know, as we go further, we'll work on some pencil lines that you might see that could get in the way. There we go. Mike says, Tone, you are a brushaholic. The first thing is for us to admit it, right? Now Willie has an airbrush problem. He's been talking about that for quite some time. Isn't that true, Willie? The first step is to admit we have a problem, right, guys and girls? There we Little by little, we'll get. Will says definitely. Definitely. And let's go ahead and look at her Cupid's bow. How can we define that a bit more without going too dark? Fuzzy, fuzzy, fuzzy over here. There we go. I love fuzzy and sharp, right? Soft and hard. That's really just so much fun to paint that way. So Todd says he always had an airbrush problem. Most of the times, the airbrush loves you like a horse, you know, like a stallion. You have to break it in, and then it will treat you really well. You gotta break it in. Now the good thing is when you're painting, you know, things are going to soften up and darken up. But right now you're just looking for the large shapes. You're just looking for the large shapes right now, and not get too hung up on details just yet. Details are fun, right? But you don't wanna do them too early, because you have to see where the forest is, and then you can worry about the trees. You have to see the tree before you can worry about the leaves. So patience. And let's see. Not sure if a brushaholic is good or bad, Gary says. And then Mike S says, but you may have something, Tone. If you are on vacation where there are a ton of cute girls, you can offer to airbrush them pats on. Hey, that's always a good angle, my friend. And then Willie says you almost picked up a $20 brush from Amazon just to see how bad it was. Wow. Yeah, you know, why not, right? Hey, there's worse ways to spend 20 bucks. So that would have been fun. And then you could have told us, you know, what your findings were. A lot of times with those cheap airbrushes, it's a hit or miss. You might get lucky and get a good airbrush because the quality control is really not there with those companies. But like they say, you could always get lucky. So I'm really happy with how clean everything is looking, because that's my goal with this painting, cleanliness. See how it's looking. Not bad, guys. We have a nice 13 people here. It's not bad. 13's a lucky number. That's my mom's birthday's on the 13th. My dad's on the 13th. Oh, cool. So my guest says he's been thinking of getting a harder and steam back. Oh, those are cool. To try, see if it does super lines with ink better. That would be cool. Yeah, the harder and steam back, you know? German engineering. Can't go wrong. There we go. Kind of liking the way Amy's looking. So we want to get some directional shadows that describe her forms. Watch out for going too dark. Lines, not likes. Just not sure if it's worth 300 bucks is steep, you know? You can get a couple of really good badgers for that. Gary says I have the silver line. Even in his hands it goes fine. Oh, great. Oh, cool. Is that a harder and steam back? That's pretty cool, Gary. Oh, nice. So Wendy, if you're still there, are you doing digital? If so, what are you working on? I'd love to hear. I know Wendy is working primarily with the program Procreate, which is on the iPad and the Apple Pencil, and that's really interesting. Little by little, I'm working on those delicate transitions in her face, these facial muscles, you know? And I'm not worried about likeness, I'm just worrying about placement and shape. And my guest says, cool, Gary, he has a Tamiya. Okay, that's cool. And then Willie says, Tim, she's already looking at you. So Amy is looking at you now? That's good. That's what we want. And that's, you know, we want to start to get a feeling of Amy right off the get-go. And we have some really good foundation here. And we're just going to build on it, you know, Willie, little by little. And you know, I love one of the things that really drew me to this. Number one, she's an incredible talent, incredibly beautiful. But number two is the delicate lines, the delicate shapes in her brow and in her face, her cheeks, the lips, the indentation of the lips inside the cheek, all those different things are really amazing. Tone's hitting the laundromat. Take care, my friend. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, sir. So I just reloaded. I ran out of the light mixture, and I thought I'd go ahead and put more light mixture. Now, believe me, at this point, even myself, I'm thinking, wow, why don't I go in with the medium mixture now and really, you know, go in with guns blazing. Suppress that. You have a lot of sketching to do. You don't want to go to the 6B pencil when you're still working with the HB pencil. You want to make sure that you model these forms and get an overall tonal fabric before you start going in very dark. The light mixture will keep you from going too dark too early. Going too dark too early is almost like, you know, you're running a marathon race and let's say you're 1/3 through and then you start really running like you're fastest. You're one third through. You're going, you're going, you're going, and you know what? You run out of gas. You went too fast, too early. Or in chess, you bring your queen out too early. You want to attack. You want to end this game, but really, what you end up doing is bringing your queen out too early, and then your queen's under attack. So, discretion is the better part of valor in warfare, and better part of valor in painting. Yeah, you can go guns blazing, and sometimes you'll hit, and it would be amazing. But to me, I'd rather just slowly get there. You know what I mean? And take care. You too, Tone. Stay safe, my friend. You know? Good guy, Tone. Okay, so now we can look and ask ourselves, where can we, maybe kill some harsh lines here and there? Or maybe just lighten it up. Now guys, I sell these ink mixtures, and I'm going to put it here in the conversation. I'll put down the link. Now my ink mixtures, they're hand mixed by myself, light, medium, and dark, and it allows you to do this technique. So let me just get that link for you. And here we go. Perfect. Copy and paste right here. So this link you'll see here, that will take you to my page for the inks. Now if you want to get this airbrush, there's a link in the description field, and let me get that for you. And it's for my airbrush, which is the Extreme Patriot Arrow. And let's see if this works. No, Badger has a they basically changed their links, so I don't have a link for that. But if you go to usaairbrushsupply.com and use this code timothypsa, you get 10% off your whole order, not just the airbrush. So that's good, and I'm able to give you guys that. So those are two things that I think could help your airbrushing out. The right airbrush is important without spending $300. Like this airbrush, I changed the trigger. This airbrush only runs you $100. But then again, you can do stuff that only this airbrush and the microns can do. So, and I stand by that. And anyone who has watched me paint for a while, I can back it up. That this airbrush can do what the micron can do. So here's another good tip that I think is important. Now you're going to have a lot of people out there, they're going to have this bravado, and they're going to say these things where I don't clean my airbrush and I leave it out for days and blah blah blah. If you keep your airbrush pristine, your airbrush will take care of you. Never ever leave it more than an hour with ink or paint in it. I'm not saying take it apart, but I'm saying keep it clean. Keep the outside clean. You don't see any paint or ink on the outside, not anywhere. None of my airbrushes are dirty in the least way. This is the airbrush I just used today. Totally clean, right? In the beginning. This is the 105 Arrow. Totally clean. Look at the cup. Totally clean. Why? Because when I pick up the airbrush, I want it to work perfectly. Same thing here. It's my another Extreme Patriot Arrow. Totally clean. Look at that cup. Look at the outside. Nowhere. I also work in paints. None of these have any kind of paint in them. Now, people will say, yeah, but it's only the inside that counts. Well, yeah, the inside counts a lot, but the outside is dirty. It's still going to affect your work. It's so important. Hey Wendy, how you doing? Good to see you. So, that's one takeaway from this live stream is that it is crucial to keep your airbrushes clean. Crucial. Both inside and out. And so let's see. Todd says, Tim, talk about the Mac valve that hooks the nose. I'm having more trouble. So this Mac valve right here, okay, this is called the pack valve, or is it the Mac valve here? Okay, we'll start with the Mac valve. This is an Iwata Mac valve, and it's really great. It goes on the airbrush, and then the hose, quick connect connects to it. It's really fantastic. I set my PSI on my compressor to 25 PSI, but then I use this to micro control. And then I use my pack valve to even control from there. So it's really important. It's a game changer for any airbrush, to have your Mac valve. Just don't have it on your compressor at 25, because if you just have it on your compressor, you're not going to get up every time you want to change the air pressure in a micro adjustment. But with the Mac valve, it's easy to fix it, and with the pack valve you can do that with the precision air control valve that comes with this Extreme Patriot Arrow. So that's a game changer, guys. Really important. Hey John, have a great night, man. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, my friend. So Wendy, we have a quick question for you. What do you work? This is when you were gone. I asked this question. I didn't realize you weren't here. What are you currently working on your digital art? So far to go with Amy here, but it's this is the important sketching part, right? So that's, oh, you're working on like, oh, what girl is that? I don't know. John Wick, look at you. Wow, and your cat, you go, girl. You're working hard. I love to hear that. That's fantastic. So what are you guys' thoughts? I was on my soapbox about a clean airbrush. Love to hear what you have to say. Oh, okay. I'm not sure who you're referring to. Just going to darken this area here. And then as you can see, we just very slowly am building the transition of this highlight on her cheekbone here. So cute. I increased my distance to get a much more subtle gradation here. Remember, you're painting a woman, you don't want her to look harsh, right? So you have to have those subtle transitions. Very, very, very important. Crucial. Super soft here. Super soft edge right over there. And let's see what people are saying. It might be him not to know how to dial it down. Yes. You definitely want to have the air down and adjust it while the air is down so you know exactly. You don't want to adjust it then turn on the air. Hold down the air pressure, right? And then adjust it. See? And then you can see where you want to have what's perfect. So don't adjust with not having the air down. Oh, okay. Yes, yours is plastic. That stinks. Uh, and let's see. Todd says he's going to play with the Mac valve on his Iwata CS. Yeah, play around with it. If you have any questions, you let me know, my friend. Okay, so I'm looking at her cheekbone here. This is coming up, and then it sort of really gets fuzzy here. Before I erase, you want to make sure that this is all very, very dry. Okay, so that seems dry now. And let's see if we can just get rid of some pencil lines. Just a little bit. And what we can do, since we're going darker, so even like prematurely I might be a little overzealous with getting rid of some of the pencil lines. So, you know, try and control that aspect. Try not to think of it as a finished piece, you know. You've got to take your time. I have to take my time. Let things happen, you know. Don't force it. Don't force things. Let them happen. I know it's so hard in life, right? You want it to happen now, and you know you want it so badly in life, and it's just so hard to be patient. Painting is no difference. No difference whatsoever. Just the beautiful little details we're able to get with this airbrush. Real soft edge here, super soft, super soft. Okay, and let's see what we got here. Got knockoff for the expensive price. As far as the pack valve or the Mac valve, here's one. I got this one. This one was like by Masters or something like that. It was really expensive. It was like $6. It works just as well, you know. It's 1/8, so it fits the Iwatas, and you know, I have the 1/8 adapter on here because I started out with Iwata, so I switched over to Badger because of their quality and their affordable nature and customer service, and but this one is real inexpensive. I think it costs $8, which is really fantastic. And I think it even came with a quick connect, so that's really neat. So, and it works just as well. Just as well, guys. But I would have to say the Iwata Mac valve is probably a little bit better. I mean, not night and day, but, you know, a little bit better. I'm always going to be honest with you guys about products. Always, always. see, the nozzle is off here. It's not doing exactly what I want it to do. So, I really hope I get a nozzle soon. Yeah, you know, it's not changing the quality of my work. It's just a little bit of an annoyance. You know what I mean? Which is really, you know, like I said, a little bit of an annoyance. So Rick says, "Hey Rick, how you doing? Good to see ya. So glad you're here." Oh, you have the cheaper one. Okay, that's a good one though. I like it. Does the job. And those on the budget, right? I think it's okay. But yeah, the Iwata is a little bit better. See, it just skips right there. I'm not getting exactly what I want, but I have to compensate. And let's darken this area here. And what that's going to do is eventually, it's just going to, that line is going to disappear. See how that spit out just a little bit there? Not good. Wendy, take care. Great to talk to you. Look at that, it's 11:28 already. Wow, this live stream went fast. You know why? Because you guys are really great. You guys are amazing. Hear that little, let's see if you can hear that. That little bit of whistling, that's the little cone nozzle there. It needs to be replaced. You guys can hear that little whistling. If you hear that little whistling, you know something's up. So, let's see. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Wendy. So we're at 11:29. So go ahead, hit that like button for me, guys. Subscribe. Come on, man. 3,000. Let's do it. You know, let's let it happen. So I am out of ink. So rather than put more in, I'm going to say it's 11:29. We did it. Thank you so much. And Amy Lee is coming along, and I really thank you for hanging out with this beginning journey of painting her. It's going to probably be about 5 to 7 parts. So we will be here on Wednesday, next Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern Time. And also, if you want to see this again, it'll be on the YouTube channel, so that would be cool. So thanks, Steve. Good to see you. Gary, thank you. Wendy, Willie, take care of yourselves, and just amazing to talk with you. And I hope you have a great night, and take care, guys.